All right, so it is, what is today? 24th? 24th. All right, and we just got through with a pretty volatile week. We released on Wednesday. I think we've gotten through most of the startup issues. There's a couple of you that are still need some help. I learned a lot. So that'll help us next time around. I want to chat a little bit about what's coming up here in the next couple weeks, and then we can cover any questions that you have. Okay, so I would also encourage you to watch the daily video for yesterday. It hasn't posted yet. It won't go up until this afternoon. There's an extended discussion of the week in review, including repeated use of replays to understand and evaluate what would have been the best way to approach that to approach the week, and you can draw your own conclusions about what you should or shouldn't do in the current environment, which is nasty volatile, among the worst I've seen. So pretty tough trading. Okay, John, let me know if you have any issues. All right, so there's a couple things here to chat about in particular. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I want to go to the next slide. Not that one, this one. All right, so one of the things that we're seeing is, if this is the movement of the market, when it starts to go sideways like this, the mechanism that I'm using to kind of just stay out of that is a very traditional moving average kind of thing. Not at all how I'd like to approach solving that problem. And the issue is that it doesn't work as well when the market is this volatile. And so what I see is that I'll get into a nice move, I'll make a nice prediction, get into that move, and I've got some trade management things to work out where I'm leaving a lot on the table. But this is a kind of a secondary issue. But the market will then, it's very common for the market to make a move and then chop sideways for a bit while the people that chased it get stopped out and the people that got in exit, et cetera, et cetera. And the mechanism that I'm using right now is a moving average, which is laggy. And the problem is that the current environment, the moves are so quick that that method is taking too long to sort of catch up to the fact that you're now chopping sideways. My initial attempt to solve that problem using machine learning improved it because it found better entries in this kind of behavior. All right, which would be okay, but you'd rather kind of just stay out if you could. And when I looked at kind of why it was an improvement but not a dramatic improvement, it's because of this. If we take this behavior here, all right, and you just rotate it like that, depending upon how you present that to the machine learning system, that mathematically looks identical. Okay, and so the approach that what makes the system work as well as it does is because it's relating the bid volume and the ask volume in the current bar to the current wave, to the previous wave, and it's this relationship between one thing and another. And if you present the way I presented the relationship of the current wave to the previous wave as I attempted to deal with the chop, I didn't realize at the time that those look identical mathematically in this particular case. I'm oversimplifying, but essentially that's the problem. And in fact, and so I did make an incremental improvement, but really it's not what I was expecting. What I expect is that very, very quickly the machine learning system should be able to tell that you're now in this sideways area and there's a lower probability. If we go to the next slide, this is the same thing. Now, this is very clearly an uptrend to you and me, right? But that is not, right? That's sideways. But again, depending upon how you present that mathematically, it looks the same, whether it's this way or even this way. All right? And so this is kind of what I've been working on this week, is dealing with this issue, okay? And so I spent most of yesterday setting up additional computational power up in the cloud, because to solve this problem, I need some more CPU cycles. And then I have from the programmer what I need to get from the custom study. So this next week or two, there'll be some rather intense effort looking at changes in model architecture that improve this case where the market starts to chop sideways. Okay, now how much that's going to help in the current crazy volatility is in question, but it's clearly the right thing to be doing. When the market gets this crazy, there's only so much you can do. All right, so that is coming. The chop is being worked on. So that'll involve to implement that for everybody. That involves a model change, which is not a big deal because you're updating your model every week anyway. And then in this particular case, though, the data that we're sending to the server will have to change. And so what that means is either you update the chart book with a new download, or if you've made changes to your chart book such that you don't want to just wholesale replace it, I can show you the piece that has to change. Okay, so I'll provide some fairly detailed instructions on that. But the point is that we've got several pieces involved here. There's the custom study, there's the machine learning server, and then there is the chart book. The chart book is really, when I say the chart book, what I mean is the settings for that custom study that are in the chart book. And so depending upon the kind of change, you may need a new, you're just going to replace the model and you won't even notice that I made a change. But if we're changing the data that we have to send, then that's a chart book change, right? We'll have to tell the study, hey, send this extra information, okay? The next thing that's coming, probably I'll release all this at the same time. But currently, we model the let's do this. Let me ungroup this. We model the pullback and the turn. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to get rid of that. We model the pullback. Come on, Shane. Here we go. Here. So we're modeling that behavior right there. You can tell I'm in a different drawing environment than I'm used to. So we model that pullback right there or there, okay. And then we also model the turns, right? So we're looking here for that turn. But what we haven't been doing is wrong button again. Is modeling the breakout. Okay, so this point right, I did it again. I'm sorry. I'm so used to the F keys from my from Sierra chart. So what we haven't been doing is looking right there at that point where you break out and evaluating that to see, okay, is this breakout going to succeed or is it going to fail? Okay, so that's also in the works here. again, I needed changes made to the custom study. I got those changes made, and now I can start doing that work. All right, so 2 things that are coming probably 2 weeks out is changes to the model that are intended to help the model understand better that the markets have gotten choppy. And then there'll be additional action codes for breakouts that you can choose to include or not in your list. Okay, and so there's a break high and a break low. There'll also be the failure of that. So the breakout's going to succeed or the breakout's going to fail. All right, so there'll be 4 new codes. Hey, Philip. And so we'll see how far we get. What I would expect to have is working versions of that by the end of the week, and then I have to do a ton of testing to make sure that it's all functional at the end user level. The breakout requires a server change. Okay, so what that means is that this piece of the system here, wrong one. No, this is fine. This bad boy right here, the .exe, that's going to have to change in order to handle breakouts. Okay, so when that happens, there'll be full installation instructions, but just to keep you aware, and that because there's a new behavior, the server gets involved now, and we have to let the server know to look for that behavior and issue the prediction when it sees that behavior. Okay, so that's the second thing, and then the third thing is it's somewhat transparent to you, but the traditional rational trader uses wave volume and order flow. The way that the wave volume has been implemented in the machine learning system was somewhat superficial, and so that's going a lot deeper now. So you got, in addition to these rather large architectural changes to the model, where I'm changing the way that the wave volume data is presented as well. So so there's 3 things happening sort of all at once here. We'll just release them all at one time, and then I would expect the dust to stabilize for quite a while, because the breakout I keep getting people asking for, and the chop is something I've been actively working on. Okay, I already mentioned to make sure to watch this week's daily video or yesterday's daily video. There's an extended discussion, and then if you have any startup issues, make sure you're talking to me so that we can get those solved. And I mentioned the cloud. Okay, so that's it. That's all the stuff that I had that is specific to sort of what's going on and what's happening. I think that in general, you have to make a decision if you're even willing to trade in this environment. Okay. What I see, and you can see this in the daily video, is you certainly want to be running conservative, not even moderately aggressive. And I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do next week. I'm going to switch to conservative. I think I changed in the video. I changed the target further out. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but in general, the request I have for the users of the system, the members, is as you start to play with different order types and trail methods, if you're finding something that you like, communicate that back to me. Okay, I don't know this that well, and all of my attention is focused in the machine learning world. So I don't have time to spend on that. So I'm just sticking with this super simple method, and I think the general results can be improved just by changing order types and trail methods. I just don't have the time to go chase it. And let me see, John. Let me see your question. Okay, so John is pointing out that one of the things that you would like to have is if you are, let's just use this here as an example. Let's say there's a breakout signal there. All right. And let's say you're already in on the turn down, I don't know, here somewhere. Down in here somewhere. All right. It'd be nice to add to the position. Okay, I agree. That's what I want to do. Okay, but that's not a machine learning thing. That's a spreadsheet, Sierra chart study thing that I'm not gonna. I don't have time to figure out right now. Somebody else can figure it out and then tell us. But eventually, that's exactly what I want, John. Is I want to get in at the turn or the pullback, and then add on the break. That is exactly what I'm after. Here's a great example. We're getting super clean predictions here. All right. I want an add on that break is what I want. Okay. So this is exactly the path of where we're heading. So what my view of what'll happen here is if once I get the modeling down to a point where I'm happy with what I have, then I can personally start spending more time on trade management, trail management, things like adding to positions and stuff like that. But right now it's off the table for me. I do not have the time. So if anyone else is doing it, hey, speak up and I'll communicate it back out for sure. And so already we have other options here, like Philip wants to enter on the break if we didn't get filled up here. That would probably happen anyway if you're accessing that, if you're looking for that code. So the way the system works is the machine learning system just makes a prediction. It's the spreadsheet that's issuing orders. All right, and so if you've told the spreadsheet, I want to I don't know what that is. I want to act on this order type, this action code, then it's going to act on it. If you're not in a position, then it's just going to do it. All right. We need new logic for the case where I'm already in and I want to add. So there's a ton of features in here in the spreadsheet study. All of these settings in here are talking about this exact thing. Do you allow another entry in the same direction? Do you allow a reversal? Do you allow this? Do you allow that? What's the maximum position size? All that stuff it's all here. It's just not in an easy to use format. All right. I talk about Sierra chart. It's really powerful, but it's definitely written by engineers for engineers. It's not the graphical user interfaces was not their first priority as they built the system. Okay. All right. So that's all the material I have that I wanted to communicate across today. If you're just attending this session for the first time, we already did system overview, and there's a whole slew of stuff, videos now on tutorials. That's where you want to go for that. Any specific questions, then I'll be happy to answer or take care of here in this session. Just as a reminder, the way to get to all this is if you just go to the Rational Trader. If you just choose daily videos, that's going to take you out to the YouTube channel automatically. Just bookmarking this will be useful. And then if you subscribe here to the channel, this is actually a YouTube subscription. Then you can use YouTube's notification settings for whether or not you want an immediate notice that something's been uploaded or something weekly, like a digest. Okay, so I'm trying to offload that work. My server launch does not have the executable. Okay, Dan, there's something wrong there because you certainly, the installation procedure very clearly shows you how to put that executable there. So I would go back through that installation the first of the installation videos. And if you're still struggling, then send me a message and we'll figure out what's going on. In playlists, in installation and tutorials, this very first video describes how to download and install the server and all the different pieces. Okay, so Trifoni, let me see. So something to consider, okay, is that what Trifoni is talking about is clearly very, very knowledgeable about Sierra chart and the spreadsheet studies. Something to consider, all right, is I'm using this because this is what Sierra chart provides. Sierra chart also provides an extremely rich programming language to do stuff, okay, and I have an excellent programmer that does the custom study work for me. And so if I get to a point where I'm unhappy or it's getting too difficult, that's an option for me to go down the route of we'll just place the orders via a specific programming language. The problem with that is that too many people want too many different things, and so it's much better to just let the experts that built something for the retail trader use that. When you start programming something specific, then it's very specific, and if somebody wants something slightly different, then you can't do it because you've coded it. If you're Dan, there's clearly some confusion, because if your server's launching, then you are actually launching the executable. That's what you're doing. Yeah. Larry, when will the weekly updates be out? Generally, they would be out Saturday night or Sunday morning at the latest. This week, it'll be a little bit later because I've spent too much time yesterday getting everything set up to run in the cloud and then running just a ton of tests on new model architectures for that CHOP stuff. So I'm a little behind schedule. But generally speaking, I'm trying to get that out. I'm trying to get that upload Saturday night, which gives you Sunday to grab it at your leisure. Typically speaking, that's a download and copy operation. There's not a lot to do. All right. If it's going to be a big deal because there's major changes, that'll be prepped days in advance, and you'll know it's coming. Okay, it won't be a surprise. Yeah, Randy. So you have the ability right here to set your maximum gain. Just set that number. All right. So that's what that says. That says if I'm up 20 points in the NASDAQ, then stop trading. Don't give it all back. Yeah, Dan. Again, Dan, I don't quite understand. If your server's launching okay, then you are launching the executable. That's what you're doing. So either I'm not understanding you, or you have a. I mean, that's what this is right here. TRTML server.exe. That's what you double click on. It starts this up, and then you're off and running. And I'm looking at other questions here. For some reason. And it'll just take however long it takes it to start up. It's like a minute or two. So I think that what I would suggest is watch the Friday daily video, which it'll post as soon as we're done here. I'll render it and upload it. But I mean, the use of a machine learning system doesn't remove the randomness from the environment. And the randomness in the environment increases with the volatility. Okay, and so what machine learning can do for you is make sure that you're not trading irrationally. or you're not trading from some emotional place. So the machine learning system just does what it does. All right. And so what I found that I'm irritated, like I was up yesterday nicely and I came back and I was down. And so I'm irritated by that. But I'm treating it more like just a natural phenomenon. Like when you throw a ball, as soon as it leaves your hand, it's going to do what it's going to do. You have no control over what happens next. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. That's how I think of trading now. Is I made my decisions beforehand and I started the system, and now it's going to be what it's going to be. All right, and it might be difficult to get there, but once you get there, boy, it's a wonderful place to be. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. I just come back and, oh, look, I'm up or I'm down. And my view is a little different because I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to build a system that I can use to generate a good result forever. That's what I'm doing. So my view is longer than yours. All right. So it's sort of always been like that, but now I'm completely in this new spot mentally. All right. And so I have just like I'll get weird requests from people like they didn't like a particular trade the system predicted, and they suggested that I add multiple moving averages and don't do something under these conditions. And you've completely missed the point. All right. The whole idea is there is this extremely sophisticated pattern matching technology that is now available to us, and that's what I want to use to solve the problem. Okay. And I'm not trying to eliminate randomness. I'm not trying to be right on every trade. I can't. That's not possible. No machine learning system in the world, no AI system in the world can predict the roll of the dice. Okay. Nothing can. And so it's a matter of just understanding that there is some element of randomness. There's some, if you just think about the market, there's, X percent of it is random. And when you're in that space, your outcome is random. Okay. And people don't often realize that. They don't think that's the case, or they don't believe me. Not fine, then you're in the wrong place, because it is that way. It is an incredibly complex system with lots of inputs that make it extremely difficult to weed out signal from noise. All right. Dan, I think that you've told your Windows software not to display the extension. If it doesn't say .exe, you can do that in the folder. By the way, while we're here, you may notice that there's all these ML info files. You can just delete them all at the end of the day if there were no issues. You can tell it's set to just at 10 megabytes create a new file. All right. And you can just keep the latest one if you want. The debug is turned on, so those files get pretty big. You can just nuke them at the end of the day. Oh, hi, Telly. You were questioning about the system earlier. So Telly's question is, when can this be available to non-early adoption people, right? And that's a difficult question to answer, and I know that's not going to satisfy you. If you were here from the very beginning, we talked about adding behaviors for dealing with breakout, and adding changes in the machine learning modeling architecture to deal with CHOP better. All right, that needs to get done and burned in, and before I will consider any new people at all, period. Okay. There's also the need for, it's difficult for me to price because I don't have enough live trading results. Okay, so I can't give you a date, Telly. I'm sorry. I'm looking at questions. Okay, so Al, the way that is it that one? Yeah, the way that Sierra chart displays this value is that's the number of ticks times the point value per tick. So 2.50 range is 10 ticks in the Nasdaq. It says 0.75 in the ES because each ES tick is worth 0.25. The value is 0.25, so that's why it says that. Okay, so Randy's asking about how to do replay. There's a tutorial for that, so we shouldn't cover that here. In the installation and tutorials playlist, using Sierra charts replay features. Okay. Can this be put towards a group of ETFs? I don't really understand what the question is. So what I'm doing is I am taking incoming data for this chart and I'm making a prediction on it. And I'm expecting the bars to be activity based in some way. So a range bar or a tick chart, something like that. So you could do anything you want. I create specific models for each market because I think each market is slightly different. So it's not intended for you to take a model that's been built from the Nasdaq and go trade it on Apple stock. I have no idea what that result would be. You're welcome to. You could certainly do a replay and see. I've tried to make it as generic as possible. So there's nothing in the data that's presented to the machine that says this particular data is the Nasdaq. All right, it's just data. But the fact is that the Nasdaq traders are different than ES traders, are different than Apple traders, and so because of that difference, you may see different results. I don't know. I haven't done that. I haven't tested that far. I did do some initial tests to see if I could use the same model on all the indexes, and that actually looked reasonable. All right. And so, I mean, ultimately, the underlying philosophy is that what moves the market is the order flow. And so I tried to present the information to the machine learning system in a very generic way. This is just the order flow for this set of bars. All right. And whether those set of bars are the NASDAQ or the ES, it's just data. All right. But the way the machine learning systems are very sensitive to the input data. And so certainly at the start here, there'll be a separate model for each market, period. And then once I'm happy with that, then I can start looking at, well, do I actually need to do that, or can I create sort of a meta model that is more appropriate to anything, or one for futures and one for stocks, or one for bonds, or something along those lines. But right now, there's a NASDAQ model, there's an ES model, and I don't make any. I have no information on how well that would work on some other market. In the tutorials, is there a discussion on why you use range bars for your system? Kent, I don't think so, but that's a really good question. So let's answer that, and then you'll see it's kind of why. If we look at any of these spots, okay. In fact, let me use the other chart. Where's the? Here, let's use this one. If you look at any of these turns, right? So the market's moving in this ebb and this flow, right? And if you just look at if you look at the nature of that turn there, and the nature of that little pullback there, and that right there, what you find is that you are able to better understand what's happening at that point if the bars are based on some amount of activity, whether it's number of trades or the amount of price movement or the volume. So a volume bar would likely work very well. A tick chart. These are all cases where the amount of activity that's going on in here is represented by the chart. Okay, but a minute chart, a second chart's not like that. Okay, you get, for a minute chart, if it's 10 trades or a million trades, that bar is going to look the same. Whereas for a volume chart, you're going to get a new bar every X number of contracts that are traded. If it's a tick chart, you're going to get a new bar every X number of trades that occur. If it's a range bar chart, you're going to get a new bar when the price moves enough. And so just the nature of that change is more predictable as you look at how the market ebbs and flows. Okay, so that's why they're used. It's not some whimsical reason. There's a very distinct reason why. I'm reading questions. So, Philip, when it says connection to server cannot be established, that means that you're unable to connect to the Infinity servers because they're not up. Okay, they go down. Those servers go down for maintenance, and then you can't connect to them. You just gotta wait till they come back up. I'm not sure what the schedule is. It is a weekend hour thing. I tend to, if I know I have work I need to do, I tend to not shut down Sierra chart or AT charts because of that issue. Because sometimes I want to get logged in and I can't. And if you're coming in through Infinity, then you're going in through their servers, and if their servers are down, then for maintenance or for whatever reason, then you can't get to your chart. So Philip, I would the thing to do there is contact whoever your Infinity rep is and ask them. And then you'll get an answer from them that makes a lot more sense than what I just said. Can you go over your bracket setup? Sure. So what I did here is, it normally looks like this, and this is super simple. Again, I don't know the Sierra chart order types that well, and I'm being very conservative with the way I move that stop, much more so than I was as a discretionary trader. So what this says is, it says limit touch chase, but just limit is what it used to say. It could just say that. So this is in the main tab. All right, limit touch chase. I'll explain in a moment. Okay, and then in the targets you set, and the quantity's right there. Okay, that quantity has to match what's in the spreadsheet, by the way. And then in the targets you define. Okay, well, what are my attached orders? Okay, and it's very important that this little check mark right here be checked. This is on the main tab, use attached orders. And what that means is that when it places the initial order, it's also going to place the target and stop orders if you get filled. Okay, the targets are then, and stop is set here. All right, so here's my target order of 30 ticks. It's quantity of 1, 30 ticks, and the kind of order it is. It's a limit order, so it's sitting above for a long. It's sitting above the market, waiting to get hit. The stop is 10 ticks, all right, and that's a stop order, which means as soon as that price level gets touched, it executes at the market. All right. Some people are tempted to use a stop limit. Do not do this. Okay, it's very easy for your stop limit order not to get filled, and then you're in the market and exposed. Some people think that they, not understanding how the markets work, think that if they use stop limit, they won't take any slippage, or that's not the case. Down here it says move to break even for stop, and basically as the market moves, you can get the stop to move for you automatically. All right, and so what this says is the first step is at 10, when the market moves your way 10 ticks, move the stop to entry +1 is what that says. Okay, and then step 2, this is trail to break even offset triggered. I don't know why it's called that. At 20 ticks, start trailing by 15. That's what that says. Okay. Not the best way to trail. I know what I want. I don't know how to do it in Sierra chart, and I don't have time to go investigate it right now. So I'm just sticking with this. Other questions? No other questions. No, we don't use the dome owl. We're using the, I display the dome, but I'm not using it. In fact, if you try to use it, it'll complain because you've got automated trading going on. So what you can do is you can tell the system just display the signals, but don't auto trade, and I'll trade myself. That's fine. You just in trade make sure that auto trading is not enabled, and then now what you'll see is it'll print out the action codes and the little arrows that say when it would have entered, and you can trade manually if you like. The current environment is it's too fast to. I wouldn't trade this environment as a human, frankly. I just watch it because it's moving too quickly. It's too hard to get. Even when I have time to evaluate, oh yeah, I'd like to get in right there. There's no time to do it. By the time you've made that decision, it's too late. The market's already gone. Is there an average number of trades per day the system is taking so far? I'm sure there is, Robert. I don't know what it is. It's a lot because the markets are so volatile right now. When in batch simulation, it was a reasonable number. You know, it was in between 5 and 10. In the current environment, it's just crazy. There's so much movement that, of course, it's generating. You know, every move is something to evaluate now. So when the markets are this wacky, of course, you're going to get more trades. I know I talked about this already, but don't confuse the fact that the markets are volatile with machine learning or AI in any way. All right, these are two separate things. All right, we're not magically solving the volatility problem with the machine learning system. In fact, it was developed for normal conditions, right? So I'm actually amazed it's not just, I'm not getting just destroyed every day. Of course, it adds to costs, Rob, when you take more trades. That's the nature of a volatile environment. If you don't want to take lots of trades, then don't trade when it's volatile, okay? People don't like to hear that answer, but that's the reality, okay? If you look at the moves that the markets are making, they're crazy. You can't have 100-point move in the Nasdaq and not end up taking tons of trades. All right. So if it's too dicey for you, then just stand aside. There's no shame in that. As a human, I wouldn't be trading this. Are you kidding? It's crazy. In fact, since February 2nd, when the wheels fell off the bus, we that was before I started doing the system in real time. We were like just sitting here watching the market in awe, but not really doing anything because you just can't respond quickly enough. Okay, so are you going to trade NQ and ES using conservative approach all week? So next week, I'm switching the NASDAQ to... The NASDAQ is a live account. I'm switching the NASDAQ to conservative, but I'm keeping all my targets the same. So plus 10, you move the stop at plus 10, and keep the target at 30. Okay, that's what I'm doing for next week. The ES, what I've been doing is I've been doing two different sets of settings here. One, looking for, okay, well, kind of what's the optimal set before I go to a live account. The problem with this approach is that the live simulated data looks sketchy to me relative to real data that's coming in through the live account. And if that's the case, then the way that I'm evaluating this is not optimal, and I should do the same thing I did for the NASDAQ. So for the NASDAQ, prior to doing all this work, right, if you go back and watch the whole introductory webinar on artificial intelligence and machine learning, I talked about the process of model development and then batch simulation and then real time. So the batch simulation piece is where I would normally go with the ES to establish what's my first set of settings to use, and I didn't do that because I've got a working system now. So I just started doing real time simulation, but I'm as a way to evaluate the different combinations of ways to look at it. But the problem with that is that the market is really crazy volatile, and so it may not be the best environment to try to determine what those settings are. And B, the simulated data, the real-time simulated data doesn't look as reliable as the live data. So I gotta call the Transact guys next week and understand what's going on there. So Randy, there is a tutorial on this. Okay, so Randy's asking about what's the difference between conservative and aggressive. So let me just point you at the tutorial, and then I'll briefly summarize it for you. What happened here? So this market behaviors tutorial talks about the range, the spectrum that exists between conservative and aggressive, the different kinds of behaviors, and then within each of those behaviors, what represents conservative and aggressive. All right, and the idea there is that you understand the choices that you're making on what trades you want to be looking for and going after. Okay, I envision a future that is distant, where the system is kind of figuring that out for you, but that's way off in the future, and that's a couple years away. All right, but right now there is, okay, the market turns. All right, so here's turning behavior. Here are the actions that the system will generate for turns, and then here is what I think are conservative, moderate, and aggressive behaviors for turns. Okay, and it's not that I think that. I actually ran those codes and looked at the profit and loss using those different behaviors and came up with an evaluation of what is conservative and what is aggressive. And that's what you see, wrong spreadsheet again. That's what you see when you go to the spreadsheet study and you go up to sheet 1. That's what you see here, these different lists of conservative and aggressive. Aggressive is basically everything. It's not quite everything because there's four behaviors that I think are just insane to try under any conditions. And then conservative you can see there's a lot less, and then moderate. So I've been doing moderate. Whoops. I've been doing moderate, and it's probably not appropriate for the current level of volatility. So Al, Al's asking a question about this. Talking about the way the stops work. Yes, the first step is at 10 ticks do something. The second step is at 20 ticks do something. You can get a better answer by going on Sierra Chart's site or just going to YouTube and searching for Sierra Chart order types. And there are people that know more about this than I do. Yes, Tim. I'll be able to do that for you. Though I don't understand your next question. Can you explain the numbers values when they appear in a group? I don't know what you mean there, Tim. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we're going to call it a day here. The models for next week will be out tomorrow morning or tomorrow noonish. So you're going to want to download those for next week. Tim, there's a tutorial that describes... Okay, so you're asking about the numbers. There's a tutorial that describes that, so you need to go watch that tutorial. That's the same tutorial I just told Randy about. Market behaviors and action codes. This describes what those are. Okay, so go watch that again. If you've watched it already, then go watch it again. And that describes what all those numbers mean. Does the machine learning vary stops? No, this is all the machine learning system does is make a prediction, and then Sierra Chart takes over and handles stops from there. Yes, Philip. This session will be uploaded just like all the others. I don't understand your question, Al. Accumulation distribution of what volume? Well, if you're talking about these studies, then and you're trying to understand what this is, then okay, I'm going to send you out to the website again, or to the YouTube channel, and this time go to Trading the Markets Using Visual Order Flow playlist, or Introduction to Wave Volume and Order Flow playlists. I would do the Trading the Markets Using Visual Order Flow playlist first. This is the underlying philosophy of order flow that is being implemented in the machine learning system. Okay. Breakouts are coming in the next couple weeks, Brian. Can I run simulated live and live mode at the same time? I don't think so, Dan. I wanted to do that with, broker live and broker simulation, broker live NASDAQ, broker simulation ES, and Patrick told me, no, I can't do it. There is a way to do it, but it requires multiple accounts, and anyway, you don't want to go there. Just use the internal simulation with Sierra Chart. Did you see my question from 543? Okay, so yeah, if you go to, the question is, are the tutorials up to date? Yeah, these tutorials here on installation and training are These are the Bible on how to install. Okay. We had surprisingly few issues, actually, when you consider the complexity of what we're doing and the number of people involved. I was really pleased. Okay, gang, that is it for today. Look for I'll actually send a message out this week to everyone that the new models are available, and you can vote on if you want that email every week or not. I try not to send out too much email, but I'll do it this week because I'm late. I'm late for good reasons, but I am late.